Howdy everybody, I pray this video finds you blessed. This week I'm making another shave set. A friend of mine, Lynn, he's also a wood turner, wanted to get an idea of how resin works and how to mix it and just see how it was done because he's interested in including resin in his projects as well. So he brought me over some maple burl pieces and we cut them up and put them in different bowls. This is also going to be a gift for his nephew, so his nephew chose blues and greens, ocean colors, which are my absolute favorite. The bowls that I'm using for my molds, I get them from the Dollar Tree. They're like 3 in a pack for $1. I usually can get several uses out of them before they start to crack or the heat from the resin affects them. And like I said, they get them from the Dollar Tree. The mold I use for my shaving brush is just a silicone resin mixing mold. You can get those on Amazon. Most of the products I use for my resin, including the coloring, the powder coloring, are in the links in the description below. I put these in the pressure pot for overnight. After about 3 or 4 hours, sometimes you can pull it out a little sooner depending on how much you mix and if it's warmer outside. But usually 24 hours is a good amount of time to wait. I get that question quite often. The knobs I'm using to tighten down my pressure pot lid, I will have them in my Etsy store as they become available. So go on over and check it out. And if you want some and you don't see any in the store, please message me. When you start doing casting, you'll notice that the edges of the pieces that you cast are very sharp. They're like razors. And it doesn't fail. Every single time I pull something out of the mold and I don't knock those edges off, I always cut my hand with them. So be careful of that, just to give you a heads up. After making several of these, I've kind of gotten a order of operations down pat. So I always work on the bowl first so I can get its final dimensions set. For most of my shaving bowls, I can have between 3 inches and 3.5 inches for my outside diameter. My inside diameter, I need to at least have 2.5 inches, so that way the shaving puck will be down there. And I try to make them at least 2 inches tall because the shaving pucks are like 1.5 inch tall, and you want to leave enough room for the lathering process for the shaving puck and the brush. So about 2 inches high. You can look at other ceramic shaving dishes on Etsy or online and calculate how big or small you want to do yours. Also take a look at the different size shaving pucks so you can get an idea of what type of shaving pucks will fit, because there's so many brands and so many kinds. I only sand to about 400 grit with these pieces because I'm going to coat it all in resin to make sure it's 100% waterproof, that it won't, swell or get ruined over time, being that it's going to be in the bathroom exposed to water continually with wet soap in it. I had a viewer send me some of these copper dish washing scrubbing pads. He gets them from Bed Bath and Beyond. I'm not sure if there's any other place you can buy them. I haven't really looked around. He sent them to me with information on how he uses them. I'm not using them the way that he specified in his email, but I do use them to knock back the sanding sealer and knock back those little fuzzy grains that get lifted from the denatured alcohol. And it works very well. I feel that it works a little faster than using the green pads. You can use them as part of your finishing process. Thank you so much, Dean, for sending those pads. I'm hoping to actually use them the way that you do and see how they turn out. For all my resin finishes, I use the Total Boat 2-to-1 slow hardener. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how warm it is outside, to get to a real tacky stage to where I can turn off the lathe. So I paint it on and I leave my lathe running at 50 RPMs, just long enough to help keep the finish, even and on there without dripping off. And then I put a box over top of it to help keep dust and things like that out. I'll normally leave the piece alone until the following day, so that way I don't accidentally put fingerprints or anything else in it by touching it. So it's best to leave it for at least 12 to 24 hours. Now I'm starting on the lid for my shave bowl, and I just hot glued the cast to a flat board so that way I could cut the uneven wood, and make it nice and flat so I can glue it to my waste block. I'm cutting the diameter for my lid to fit in the inside of my shave pot that will actually hold the shaving puck. And I make it a little smaller because got to keep in mind that both pieces are going to be coated in resin, which will add some thickness to it. I'm finishing the inside of the lid before I part it off and turn it around and do the other side. I didn't want to have to mess around with, the inside of the lid once I got it parted. It's a lot easier to put the finish on the lathe while it's turning. So if there are any bugs or anything else that happens to land in it, it's a lot easier to sand it back and reapply and get a much smoother finish while it's still on the lathe. All of the brushes I use to apply my resin coatings, I normally get them at the Dollar Tree because I can get bigger packs for only $1. And I do not clean them, and the reason why is because they are such cheap brushes. The acetone just tears them up. And I tried it a few times, and unfortunately the bristles fall out of these brushes as you're applying the resin as it is, and I'm normally picking pieces out, which isn't too much of a bother because the resin's still wet and it smooths right back out. But after washing them with acetone, they normally just fall apart really bad, and there's more bristles than I care to deal with, so I just chunk them. I don't put links to Dollar Tree's website for those specific brushes because they don't always have the same brushes every time I go. They carry random different ones, and sometimes I get really cool brushes and I'll only buy a few to try them out, and they're awesome, and I go back and they don't have any anymore. So it's hit or miss with the Dollar Tree. They kind of just randomly have different items in all the time. So if you find a brush that you really like there, buy every single one they have, because that might be the last time you get them. I apologize for this horrible shot. Unfortunately, my helmet hit my camera arm that my camera sits on, and I didn't realize it until I got to the very end of making this shave brush. So I do apologize. I tried leaving as much as bearably possible in here so you can kind of see the shaping process, but it's really hard to see, so I kind of cut it a little short and just wrapped it up with how I finished it. All that's left to do is put the shaving brush knot inside the handle and then coat the bottom of the shave set. And for the knot, I use the 2-to-1 fast hardener. Usually takes about an hour for that to set up pretty good, so I just sit it in there, make sure there's nothing leaking out around the sides and whatnot. And then for the bottom of the shave set, I use the 2-to-1. I just paint it on really good and continue to kind of work with it because you have quite a bit of working time with the slow set. Like I said, it doesn't get tacky and icky, sticky for about 30 minutes. So you have time to keep it moving and go over all the spots really well. And then I just took my little mini torch to it to release the air bubbles. Thank you all so much for watching my videos. I pray that you guys have a wonderful weekend. Take care and God bless.